So I think my goals have changed. They've shifted quite a bit. And my goals now include primarily being able to cause some transference of what I'm going through to my children in such a manner that they not only accept it and adopt it, but they can also teach others.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Wise Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Wise Advice. I am your host, as always, Yonah Weiss, and I am excited to be here today with Ify. So welcome to the show. And I'm a poet and didn't know it, but that rhymes. I do it all the time. What's going on? How you doing this morning?
Thank you so much, Yonah, for having me. I am honored and stoked to be here.
I'm grateful for you to take the time. I know you are busy in the hospital most days, and that you can take some time. I don't know if right now you're hiding in a medical closet or something.
They're not once. They're not once with you, but no. I came out of the closet.
We did a LinkedIn Live together a few months ago, and she was in between shifts at the hospital and found a quiet space. But I'm excited to have you on the show.
Of course. Happy to be here. I worked 2 weekends in a row back to back, and this is my day off. So what better time way to spend my day off than with the king of crossing?
It's such a pleasure. Ify, you are, like I mentioned, in the hospital. You are been in the medical field for most of your career, and you are also a real estate investor, which is how we met, how we got connected through the real estate space. And I'd love for you to give a little bit of a background, how you got started. I know you don't have the most conventional story, so I'd love to hear that. So if you would give our listeners a little context, who you are.
Of course. How much time did you say you had? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Early in the 1980s. No, so I'm of Nigerian heritage, and I do say that with tongue in cheek. I am a child of the 80s, right? And I think it played a huge role in my upbringing, as it does with everyone in whatever era that you grew up in. So child of the 80s, born in Nigeria, family of 4 kids. We thought we were too many. I immigrated to the U.S. A fun fact, I immigrated exactly 7 days after I got married.
Wow, that's exciting.
This was 20 years ago. So, we got married. The time was running out on the visa, the permanent residency visa that we had. And so we had to move. Came here with nothing, like zero zilch, to the U.S. I grew up in a family that, my parents didn't insist that we went down one particular career path or the other. It, of course, didn't help that my dad was a top, exceptionally brilliant engineer, and my mom was a principal. She studied different languages, so she was a French teacher in our school, French and English. And so that kind of molded us into who all of us in our family ended up being. We weren't told to come first or second, but that was not really an option. We just had to. It was just implied. And so academic success was really harped on. It was a huge, big thing. I didn't go down the traditional path. I have a physician in the family. I have a lawyer in the family. I have a banker in the family, and I chose chemistry. So coming to the US, I had to start life over. I wasn't prepared for that. And that was easy. I thought of something new or different that, kind of was in alignment with what I had studied before, and I found pharmacy. And so I went to school. Yeah, I went to school, and I had touches on medicinal chemistry. So it was such a perfect blend for me. Went to school, graduated top of my class. I was checking off all the boxes. See, at that time I had gotten married, check. I graduated top of my class, check. And next thing was kids, right? Because that's what my parents didn't tell me, but life and society, Nigerian society told me I had to do. And so kids started tumbling in one after the other. And then 3 kids later, I realized that life breaks the heart of everyone at some point in time, and it was my turn. I went through a divorce, took about 3 years, and I'm sitting in my room thinking, what next? What next? I can't work any extra. I already work 2 jobs as a pharmacist. I'd always worked 2 jobs as a pharmacist. I have 3 kids that I'm taking care of fully with, a sprinkle of neurodivergence in there.
Wow.
That takes some mental energy and fortitude. So can't work any harder. That saying of work smarter, but okay, I was working harder. I can't work any more harder than I was. X. And so investing became very apparent that would be the way to go, but invest in what? I started learning about the stock market. I learned enough to be comfortable enough to, form a brokerage account. I don't know if it's a brokerage account, but, like a Vanguard account on my phone. And I started dabbling in here and there. This was 2022. And if you remember what the market was like, it was a great time to buy, but things were going down, 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 down. And I didn't like that trajectory. I understood it, but I didn't like it. I wanted to see something that would bring me cash flow. Why? That was the year my oldest, was going to turn 13. And so that was a very pivotal, in my mind, a very pivotal moment. I could see college on the horizon for him. I was still saddled with my college debt, and I didn't want to have to pay student loans for any other person again.
Right.
I didn't want to have to rely on the color of our melanin as a way of, ticket for him to get into school. I didn't want to rely on his mental capacity. My kids are academically bright, but I did not want to rely on all of that. I didn't want them to get into a college and I had to say, sorry, mom, I can't afford it. So something had to shift.
Right.
And as the stereotypical traditional Nigerian wife that I was used to a level of comfort, even though I was the one providing that comfort. There was just that safety in knowing that there was somebody else there, whether or not that person did what they were supposed to do. But there was that, there was that measure of safety. I was not the business type. I actually prided myself in talking about how growing up, I had a list of people who not to marry, and businessman was one of them. because I, in my mind, and, this is all perspective, perception versus perspective, but in my mind, I felt that they had no time for their families. They were always traveling. They were never there. Yes, they made a lot of money, but they were just never there. And I grew up raised by my mom only, and it was tough. It was tough. So life nudged / shoved me
pushed you in the direction.
It certainly did. And it's that thing of taking the lemons life give you. You can make lemonade. You can go ahead and make lemon curd, lemon meringue pie. You can just keep making a whole ton of things, and that's what I chose to do.
So how did you find real estate? Obviously, the fact that it became something that was an outlet and a way to help build wealth, something that a lot of people find. But practically speaking, like, was it a Google search? Did you have a friend? Like, how did you actually come across it?
Yeah, no, great question. So during the time of the divorce, we moved out of the marital home. And so I'm sitting in an apartment Googling on, the university that we all went through, YouTube, how to buy a home. I knew the home buying basics. I knew all of that. But since at that time, I couldn't acquire any assets, we weren't allowed to, I figured it's the best time to learn how to, do it the proper way. So started learning. But remember, the algorithm was working in the background because I was also searching about investing. And so through that mix, I began to see things like wholesaling. I began to see operators that I had never seen before. The only people I had heard about in real estate, I believe, were Robert Kiyosaki and Warren Buffett. Coming to I really knew absolutely no one. And so there was a short that came up on my feed, and the person spoke really fast. And I remember listening to it and going, I don't know a heck of what he just said, and it sounded like scam. Bye. And I clicked it off, but then something kept bugging me, and I kept thinking, what if it's real? What if it's real? But I didn't know his name. I had, I dismissed it, didn't know his name. I kept on watching all those YouTube videos, and his name, the reel came back. His name was Pace Morby. And so I spent some time, understudying him. Is this real? Is this a scam? He had the communities. I joined in. And after, I have to do some research for a month. That was the first paid community that I joined, was Sub2. Exposed me to the entire gamut of real estate. So for someone who had absolutely no experience, I drank out of fire hose. I drank out of things that I'm pretty sure that was not a fire hose, but I drank anyway. I chased every shiny object. If it wasn't shiny, I was chasing it because I had such a sense of urgency in fulfilling my goals. You see, I wasn't coming into this in my 20s or my 30s. I had hit the fourth floor from an age perspective. So in my opinion, time was running out. Time was of the essence. And so I was trying to do as much as I could in the very little time that I had. And so that was my foray into, into real estate investing. Fast forward a couple of months later, I joined Rodcliffe's program because at that point I had laser focused on commercial real estate. So that's
Awesome.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's very fascinating. And, Pace Morby has a great program. I have some friends that have participated in that as well. And, just have great things to say. But for our listeners who may not be familiar, what is, give a brief kind of background, what your experience with the sub to or subject to, because that's a part of real estate that a lot of people don't even know exists, and the way to, be investing.
So I am forever grateful that I went into that community first. And do you know why? Because when I got in, I thought that my purpose, I had a plan going in. My plan, I live in Massachusetts. My plan was to purchase 4 or 5 multifamily apartment buildings, so residential, in Ohio. That was my plan. One for each kid, one for me, and one for my mom. And we were going to live off that cash flow. That was the plan. And then I go in and, I'm chasing all these things, and I don't realize it until it's like way, way, way after. Everything I was exposed to in those early moments, mindset training. And there was so much of that infused into a lot of the trainings that were built in there. And so that's where I laid my first foundation. And that I'm a huge, huge, huge proponent of get your mindset right initially. That is a firm foundation you're going to build any business or successful business on. So that was my experience. Now, for those who are not familiar with Sub 2 or Subject 2, Pace has he's mastered the art of different levels and types of creative financing. And he allows that to happen in every, you could be a buy and hold investor, you could be a fix and flip, you could be a wholesaler. And he teaches the principles of being able to take over a person's mortgage, subject to, which is legal. I never performed any of those transactions. I moved to commercial real estate prior to doing all of that. But the premise is you're able to take over a person's mortgage, because do you know what a lot of homeowners actually have now, Yonah, that they may not actually know? People that currently own homes now, people that bought homes at a particular time, one leverage that they have that they may not even know they have is their interest rates, the interest rate that they lock their current mortgage at, right? So being able to keep that sort of financing in place and have somebody else through a third party, make those payments. And, that's literally the premise of the essence of taking someone's mortgage over subject to. And so he's teaching these principles, and people are able to locate assets and, perform these transactions individually, but more importantly, as a team. He does not preach mentorship at all. He hates it being called a mentorship. It's a community. Yeah. And that is first learn how to network effectively.
That's incredible. And it's so powerful. Like you said, the interest rates, especially now when interest rates have risen and are at a point where it's very difficult to get a new mortgage at a good rate that, cash flows, that makes sense. But there are a lot of people out there that own homes, especially when you're dealing with single family, someone who is interested in buying a single family property. And people out there, unfortunately, for whatever reason, are kind of pressured and need funds or just need to, they can't make the mortgage payments, whatever it is, and are willing to sell their house, but not necessarily take a loss, but have someone take over the property, just essentially take over the mortgage payments. That's an incredible thing, incredibly powerful tool. Another thing that I just came across recently, and I'm not really into the single family investing space, but I know some of our listeners are. And a great tip I just heard, it just reminded me when you were talking about this, is you can find certain, softwares that are out there. There's one called PropStream, for example.
Yes, I used it.
Yeah. And it can tell you what the mortgage on any property was.
Absolutely.
And what you can see from that is, you can do a random search of like homes that you're looking to buy in a certain area, and also simultaneously look up what the existing mortgage on the property is. And when you find out that the asking price of the home is essentially very close to the remaining mortgage, that means the person is trying to sell their home and are not even going to break even or make any money on it. There's an opportunity there to offer the person a substantial amount of cash, you know, even though it's a small amount, but kind of like a down payment, because it seems, you know, and a lot of times that's what they're looking for. And so you can offer them to take over their mortgage. A lot of opportunities out there if you know what you're doing and kind of focused on
Yeah.
that.
No, it was absolutely mind-boggling to me. I got into that world and I went, hold on, how long has this been going on? And how did all these people know how to do all these things? And where have I been? Yeah, no, it's fascinating. It really is.
And now that you've joined the, you know, the Rod Khalif's, you know, program, that's an awesome program as well. Again, a lot of people I know that have gone through that, you know, the Warriors and what have you. There are a lot of people that are very good mentors that have a lot of experience, you know, Rod being one himself. But what have you found has been the key to success when it comes to investing in commercial real estate?
Of course. So by the time I joined Rod's program, a couple of things had happened, right? I had gotten that, not to say that I had arrived when it came to mindset training, because mindset for me is kind of like an onion. That there are just so many layers. You peel one off, you think you've gotten the hang of it, and there's another layer that you need to peel off. But I had gotten the rudimentary layers peeled off, right? And I knew what my focus was going to be. I had found my niche. And right before I joined Rod's program, I actually joined a team that had 2 deals under contract. So I came into Rod's program raising on 2 deals. And so I joined his program specifically, and it has served me so well. I joined his program specifically for the currency of relationships and education. So that, the education piece, he does offer that. That's awesome. But the relationships are huge, immense. Being able to be in rooms with people who are already successfully doing what you aspire to do. And it's not just that. Having people that are like-minded, finding who you're in alignment with. A lot of people being able to turn around and offer you a hand to say, yeah, here, come on, let me show you. And that was huge for me because the concept of having an abundant versus scarcity mindset, didn't know what that was. Didn't know how prevalent it was growing up in the Nigeria that I grew up in, where people see opportunity, they take it, and they don't leave anything for the person behind. That's kind of what our leadership and people in power have been doing. And so having people that are already successful, stretching out their hands and willing to work with you, huge. Yeah. So that's kind of why I joined Rod's program, and it has served me well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the teamwork aspect of it. We talk about a lot on the show, the fact that investing, especially multifamily or commercial real estate, it's a team sport. And it really is. You need a lot of different people to make the magic happen. And the fact that you're able to join a team and do that and invest together with people who've already had some experience, that's going to take you to a whole new level of investing and wealth building, which essentially was your goal in the first place, right? It was create passive income. I'm curious to know what happened to your goal about buying small apartment buildings in central Massachusetts. Worcester. Welcome to Worcester.
No, I wanted to buy in Ohio.
Ohio, right? Sorry.
Well, funny. No, shameless plug. I actually posted today about how I live in Massachusetts, but I'm not investing here. So no, I wanted to buy those smaller apartments. I also wanted to buy a primary residence. So I had all these different goals, right? I had all these different goals, and I was chasing too many things at the same time. Remember, I'm mothering 3 kids. I'm working 2 jobs, which felt like 3, but working 2 jobs. And I'm trying to accomplish all these different things. I was learning about commercial. I was also trying to find my, residential multifamily, trying to find a primary residence for myself. And then one of the accountability leaders, well divided into different zones in sub 2, and an accountability leader for sub 2 for New England at the time. She was I call her my Korean mom. She called me and she spoke to me for about 45 minutes in a very stern, loving, motherly tone. And she told me to pretty much knock it off, focus on one thing. If it's not wealth building, if it's not income producing, don't do it. And that was when I ditched every other plan I had, every single thing, and it was only acquire apartment buildings. That was my pivotal point. So gotcha. I ditched the Midwest rentals. Not to say that they're not good, but yep, that's that idea.
Okay, it makes sense. You got to focus, and real focus, and on one thing is going to definitely take you to where your goals are much faster. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, if you also co-host a virtual real estate meetup, can you tell us a little bit about that, and how you got started in that and what that's about?
I would love to. Shameless plug for the multifamily freedom chasers community. So I remember I joined Sub 2 June 2022. And then a couple of months after I realized, commercial real estate was going to be my thing, but I had just joined Sub 2. And my, very stingy behind said, I am not joining another mentorship. I'm not paying for another mentorship. So since I live in Massachusetts and all the meetups are in Texas and Florida and California, nothing happens here. I was limited to Zoom. So if there was a Zoom on commercial real estate, I was on it. If it was for free, I was everywhere. And one of those places was, and it still is, the Multifamily Freedom Chasers. Now, this was started by 4 young men, 2 of which were in Sub 2. So that's kind of how I got to know about it. It was through there that I first heard and met Rod Cleef. And I think they had gone and done a paid mentorship and came back and started teaching us everything they learned for free. That sort of go-giver attitude just resonated absolutely with me. And so I made sure I was always, joining that. There's online Zooms. Before I closed on my assets, the 2 I closed in 2023, they extended an opportunity for me to also serve in the leadership capacity. And I, first thing I said was, no, I don't have anything to talk about. I haven't done anything, It was another layer of the mindset onion that I had to peel back. So soon accepted. And what the person I co-host with and I present every other Monday is an asset management series. So the Multifamily Freedom Chasers it's an online community designed for 9-to-5ers. And if you're not a 9-to-5er, you can join us as well. But it's trying to show working professionals that financial freedom through apartment investing is feasible and it's possible. So that's pretty much what it is. And we've had you on.
Yes, indeed.
As an esteemed guest.
Yes.
I look forward to having you on again.
And the excitement is mutual. I really enjoy going to these different communities and sharing the wealth of knowledge that I've acquired with the subject matter. Obviously, cost segregation is a huge thing that everyone really needs to know about in the real estate space. Yet, very few people do have a good working knowledge of it. So, always happy to share that, and really anything else I can add value with. But that's awesome. I mean, and it just shows you the power of networking. You can just through your network come to new opportunities, meeting new people, and then business opportunities and investment opportunities and partnerships and all kinds of good things like that happen. So if you are listening to this and you're not part of any of these online Zoom, you don't have to be, obviously it's great to go to a local in-person meetup, and there are plenty of those out there, but you don't have to be limited to that with, obviously the internet nowadays. You can anywhere, anytime, there's like a meetup somewhere happening around the country. So check it out.
No, it's so true, because remember how I said I was partnered with a team before I got into Rod's program? Well, that's how I met the person that was running that team, was through the Multifamily Freedom Chasers. Yeah.
So amazing. Love that. What would you say is, obviously you have 3 kids, they're growing up quickly, you're working still pretty heavily and taking some time off to join us on the show, but what are your biggest goals right now, if you have any?
So if you had asked Ify 1.0, right, who had started in real estate, I would have spouted off to you very quickly. 1,000 units by this time, class this and this, this market. Those are my goals. To have raised X amount of money. Those are great goals. I don't want to downplay those goals. I don't want to poo-poo those goals. Those are great goals. But what happened to me, because I'm on my particular journey, what happened to me was, as I was pursuing all of these, as I was pursuing all those mindset trainings and PACES program and all those different Zooms that I was on, in order to do that, in order to give it my fullest attention, I wouldn't say marginalize my kids, but they had to be somewhere else. They couldn't distract me from what I was doing. And so my door was always shut. I didn't invite them into this journey. And then one day I wake up and I go, wait a second, I'm doing to them exactly what was done to me as a young adult. One day we're just expected to know how to, spend money and make great decisions, even though I was raised right. But these trainings that I was going through, the changes I was going through, I didn't feel confident enough, I think, at the time to pass them on to my kids. And so I think in my head, I must have thought, one day, I'll be sitting on a beach, with the umbrella. I don't drink, but with the umbrella drink, the virgin umbrella drink in hand, and the kids will be there and they'll be happy. But how? But how if I didn't bring them along? And so I think my goals have changed. They've shifted quite a bit. And my goals now include primarily being able to cause some transference of what I'm going through to my children in such a manner that they not only accept it and adopt it, but they can also teach others.
That's awesome. Love that. And I love the fact that the goals are ever changing. The goalpost moves, and something that really the focus is on, how can I help others? And I heard an amazing story yesterday. I'm going to share this because I really do this kind of thing, but I heard this amazing story. I don't know if it's a true story, but kind of one of those things where a teacher, an elementary school teacher, told all the children, big classroom, everyone got a balloon, and they were told to write their name on a balloon. Okay. And then she said, everyone throw their balloon out into the hallway. Okay. Everyone put the balloon in the hallway, got all mixed up and bubbled up. And everyone came back in the classroom, and she said, you have 30 seconds to go out and find your balloon with your name on it. Okay. So she went to the timer, and everyone went out. The kids were fumbling around, and after timer stopped, not a single kid found their balloon with their name on it. And she brought them all back in the classroom. He said, okay, now everyone go out, find a balloon, and whatever name you pick up, give that balloon to the person whose name appears on the balloon. She set the timer. Everyone went out, and within 30 seconds, every single kid had their balloon with their name on it. And the lesson, she said, and this was such a powerful thing, is that, you go out there in life, and you're out there and you're trying to, you want to receive, you want to, whatever it is that you want, and you end up empty-handed. Whereas if you go out and you focus on giving, and how can I provide to others? How can I give to other people? You'll end up not only helping others, but you also get what you need at the same time. And so it's just a very powerful paradigm shift about where your focus is. And I feel like, that's what you shared in terms of your goals there. And just a powerful analogy. I don't know if it's, a true story or an analogy, but I love it regardless.
It is profound, because how many people around me did I really hear of, or do we see that talk about, being a servant leader, leading with value first, the go-giver. I think that's the book is based on those types of principles. So I resonate with that story, and I don't know, I don't want to live in regret or anything, but I keep asking myself, why didn't I know these things earlier? Why am I just learning about them now? And so for me, there's this race. There's a race for me to be able to learn as much, give as much, learn as much, teach as much, learn as much, because, life is unpredictable. I hope to live a very long life, and I've told my kids that, but I said, we still have to live as if every day was our last. And so people remember me by not what I said, but what I did, or how I made them feel. I think that's how that saying goes. It's crucial. It's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ify, the time has come to go to the final four. These are 4 questions I'd like to ask all my guests. And the first one for you is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
So it was before I came to this country. So after college in Nigeria, there's a 1-year program everyone is expected to go through. I think in some countries you have to, enlist in the military, that sort of thing. We had something similar to that. In our first month, we were in these camps. We had to learn how to live life in a very rugged environments. We marched, we had uniforms, etc. And then after that 1 year, a 1 month training, you're deployed to different parts. Some people are deployed to rural areas to teach, etc. I was deployed to the power company, and I was in a very good part of Nigeria. I was in Lagos, Nigeria. The job, I didn't do anything on that job. I basically just that I would buy food for people. It was from a skill set perspective, it was very frustrating. I did absolutely nothing. I wasn't exhausted, but it was just this lull in my life where I wish I didn't have to go through that. So I would say that was probably the worst thing I ever did.
Yeah, I can feel that, when you just feel like you're not being utilized, you're not doing anything. And that's hard. Second question, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
So I kind of sort of posted about this on LinkedIn, in the sense that I haven't been as much of an avid reader as I would have liked to be. I've switched now into audiobooks. I just haven't had, if you wanted to send me to sleep, give me a book. So I switched into audiobooks, and right now I'm reading The Richest Man in Babylon. So in terms of books, I'm still going to stick with the Bible, because now, as a real estate investor, as an entrepreneur, I'm actually seeing it and interpreting it in different ways than I did before. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. It is so true. Such a powerful book. I mean, you can't get better than that. So love it. Third question. What's a skill or talent that you would like to learn? And this can be anything.
This one is easy. So Nigeria has about 200 or 250 tribes, languages, right?
Really?
I belong to one of the major 3 tribes. My mom read different languages. She studied French, German, the works. We're surrounded by Francophone countries. Yeah, and I guess how many languages I speak?
You know,
one.
Oh, you speak one language?
One.
No.
English.
What do you,
and I prided myself in that. It was due to no fault of ours. Our dad just didn't want us learning any other language. But if there was one skill I could pick up, it would be to learn another language.
Wow. So in Nigeria growing up, English was the primary language?
So English is the lingua franca. Everyone else speaks their language. And so growing up, my brothers and I were teased. Even until adulthood, we were teased because we did not speak our language. So you have a lot of bilingual and multilingual folks in Nigeria. They speak English. There's a bastardized version of English called Pidgin. It's like Creole. And then everyone has their own different languages. So we could speak Pidgin, but it wasn't allowed in the house because my mom was an English teacher and you do not speak, that kind of English now in the household. But yeah, none of my brothers speak any of the Nigerian languages. So if I had to do it over, that would be one skill I'd like to learn is a language.
Well, it's definitely not too late to
to
learn a language. So good luck to you with that. Fourth and final question. What does success mean to you?
I think to me, this is just like goals. It's something I've defined and redefined. I would have told you it would have been the, 1,000 unit apartments. It would have been X, making X amount, millions of dollars, attaining financial freedom, that sort of thing. But that's a goal. That's an endpoint in itself. And because I came on this, and that's not a wrong endpoint, because I came into this journey, into this awakening at the time and age that I did, I'm beginning to enjoy the journey a little bit more. So for me, success is a culmination of all the little different mini wins that I am experiencing on this journey. Whether it's my ability, again, to transfer little skill sets. So my middle one is reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, but we are reading it with him because he comes at the end of the day to explain what he's read to us chapter by chapter. The other one is reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm reading Little Pilgrim's Progress with my daughter. So those little wins, am I, showcasing my life in a way that my kids are becoming kinder? Who am I impacting even while I'm at work? So for me, that's success. And more importantly, not giving up. So every day being able to getting up and not staying down. For me, that's success. That's
awesome. I love that. It's so important to make sure to give that over to your kids and make sure they're along the journey with you, because you want to make sure that they feel what you feel and they're living, you're an example for them. And that just shines through in everything that you do. So kudos to you, Ify. It's really been fun. I appreciate you taking the time today. And for our listeners who want to get in touch with you or find you, what's the best way they can do that?
Oh my goodness. Yonah, you have made me into a LinkedIn junkie. So I am available on LinkedIn. I would have put my email address, but I prefer LinkedIn right now. So my name is Ify, Ify. Last name is Asoh, Asoh. I'm searchable on LinkedIn. I'm also available on Instagram and Facebook, but please connect with me through LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure to put all that in the show notes for anyone to check out. Ify, I highly recommend you do. She is a bundle of energy and just great to spend the time with you today. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Yonah. Thank you.
And to all our listeners, thank you guys for joining us on this journey we like to call a podcast all the way to the end. Once again, remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yonah Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.